Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to dive right into the dramatic battle for the very soul of America's oldest surviving department store. We are looking at a brand with nearly 200 years of history, a name that practically invented modern retail. And yet, in recent years, it's been fighting tooth and nail just to stay alive. So today we're exploring how this 2-century-old icon is trying to resurrect itself in the digital age, and why the secret to its survival might actually lie in looking backward at its trailblazing past.
So when Sina Yenel, the chief strategy officer over at Regal Brands Global, which are the new owners of Lord & Taylor, when he used the phrase, the biggest betrayal of the brand, you'd probably assume he was talking about, I don't know, a massive financial scandal, or some corporate merger completely gone wrong. But actually, scratch that. He wasn't. He was talking about a font change. Yeah, literally a font change. You're probably wondering, how on earth could a simple font be considered a betrayal to a nearly 200-year-old company?
Well, it all comes down to identity. Think about that generic modern sans serif logo they pivoted to in 2022. Now compare that in your mind to the bespoke, sweeping, free-flowing cursive script that defined the brand for decades. That classic cursive was originally handwritten by the architect and graphic designer Andrew Geller. The new owners felt that moving to a clean, Helvetica-style design, it basically erased their entire identity. It made a legendary historical institution look exactly like a modern tech startup. And that's a huge problem, right? Because they aren't a startup. Stripping away that wildly distinct, maybe slightly snooty but incredibly elegant script, it stripped away the exact heritage that made the brand so special in the very first place.
To really grasp why losing a cursive logo felt like such a deep, personal betrayal, we have to look at the brand's near-death experiences and their whole fight for survival. Because this isn't just about aesthetics, it's about holding on to who you are during a major crisis. Lord & Taylor has actually gone out of business twice in recent years. The devastating hit from the COVID-19 pandemic forced them to make the heartbreaking decision to close their physical stores in 2020 and 2021 after filing for bankruptcy. Then, they transitioned to a fully digital model, which subsequently shut down again in March 2024 before this latest revival attempt. They are literally a brand living on the edge. So to understand what's really at stake when a brand in this precarious position loses its visual identity, we need to go back to the very beginning. Section 1. Building a retail legacy. The physical expansion of Lord & Taylor was absolutely relentless, and it paints this incredible picture of American history. Back in 1826, when Lower Manhattan was a vastly different, wildly developing landscape, these two visionary entrepreneurs, Samuel Lord and George Washington Taylor, opened a small, humble dry goods store. But, they didn't stay small for long. By 1870, they had expanded to a massive flagship store on Broadway, perfectly capturing the energy of a booming city. And then, in 1914, they made their ultimate move, opening a magnificent Beaux-Arts building right on Fifth Avenue. This wasn't just a store. It was a sprawling architectural marvel that cemented their status as the ultimate symbol of New York luxury. They were true pioneers of the retail experience. Get this, they were the very first department store to have an elevator, and the absolute first to offer personal shopping. They quite literally defined what it meant to go shopping for fun. Section 2. The Trailblazer, Dorothy Shaver. But here's the thing. The true golden era of this retailer wasn't built just by brick and mortar. It was built by a visionary named Dorothy Shaver. While Lord & Taylor founded the company, Shaver's impact was so profound that she absolutely shattered the glass ceiling of the mid-20th century retail industry. Hired in 1924, her rise within the company was nothing short of meteoric. She was a total forward thinker, someone deeply interested in human psychology and innovative ideas. She fiercely believed in the power of creative thinking to just completely transform the business of selling clothes. Shaver introduced refinements that fundamentally changed the art of storekeeping and merchandising. Just 3 years after joining the company, she achieved the unthinkable for that era. She became one of only 2 women appointed to the board of directors in 1927. But it was her on-the-floor innovations that truly changed the game. And honestly, these are things we completely take for granted today. She created the first-ever Bureau of Stylists right inside a department store. She spearheaded witty, engaging ads that spoke to customers with intelligence and humor. And perhaps most famously, she revolutionized window displays. Instead of just stuffing mannequins behind glass, she turned them into captivating, artful showcases. By the 1970s, her legacy in this area was so strong that it literally drew tourists from all over the world just to stand on the sidewalk and marvel at the glass. Her sheer talent just could not be denied. By 1945, Shaver was elected president of Lord & Taylor. This made her the very first woman to head a major retail establishment anywhere in the United States. And with that monumental title came a staggering, record-breaking salary for a woman at the time, $110,000. Now, amazingly, historical records point out this was still only a fraction of what her male counterparts at other department stores were pulling in. But despite that stark inequality, she completely dominated the industry. Her leadership earned her massive accolades, including being voted Outstanding Woman in Business by the Associated Press in both 1946 and 1947.
Section 3, Championing the American Look. Which leads us directly to her most lasting contribution to the fashion industry, her relentless fight for American designers. Right in the middle of the Great Depression, in 1932, Dorothy Shaver made an incredibly bold pivot. See, before her, American fashion designers worked in complete anonymity. They were essentially just cogs in a machine, quietly copying and interpreting French couture for the American market. Because back then, the consensus was that Parisian fashion was the only fashion that actually mattered. But Shaver saw a desperate need to pay tribute to domestic talent and pull American designers right out of the shadows. So she took this massive, totally unprecedented risk. She prominently featured 3 young American women in Lord & Taylor's advertisements and high-profile window displays. By giving Elizabeth Hayes, Annette Simpson, and Edith Roos actual name recognition, treating them exactly like the revered French couturiers, Shaver set the stage for a massive cultural shift. It changed the entire way Americans viewed their own domestic artistry, proving once and for all that homegrown talent was just as valuable and just as glamorous as anything coming out of Europe. This relentless promotion officially birthed the American Look advertising campaign in 1945. It was a true declaration of independence for the domestic fashion industry. Shaver proved that American fashion could stand entirely on its own merit, characterized by a unique sense of practicality, sportswear, and ready-to-wear elegance that just perfectly suited the lifestyle of the modern American woman. It was a monumental victory for domestic retail, establishing a heritage of unique, curated style. And, it's exactly this heritage that the brand is desperately trying to tap into to survive today's retail apocalypse. Section 4, A Modern Digital Rebirth.
Flashing forward to the present day, we see a brand desperately trying to recapture that mid-century magic, but this time, online. In a sea of modern, sterile e-commerce sites where everything just kind of feels generic, the new ownership at Regal Brands Global realizes that Lord & Taylor's single unique weapon is its 198 years of history. By abandoning that sterile 2022 Helvetica logo and returning to the sweeping, elegant Andrew Geller cursive, they're sending a really powerful signal to consumers. They're saying that the elegance, the bold style, and the exceptional legacy of the past are back. They aren't just another faceless online storefront.
So it all comes down to this. Is restoring a beloved cursive logo actually enough to keep a nearly 2-century-old American icon alive without its iconic physical stores? Can you really bottle the magic of a Dorothy Shaver window display, capture the sheer grandeur of a Fifth Avenue flagship, and sell all of that entirely through a web browser? It's a massive gamble, for sure, but by recognizing that their heritage is their absolute greatest asset, it proves they aren't quite ready to close the book on their American legacy just yet. Keep an eye on the logos around you guys. They usually tell a much bigger story than you think.